What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and this video, I want to talk about Insomniac Games and the day that they had, which was a big one, and one that kind of was unexpected. You know, I was watching this 30th anniversary thing going on. Seemed like a lot of fun, or when it eventually happens, it'll be a lot of fun. But, you know, we saw the news of Ted Price leaving. I want to talk a little bit about that. But, you know, then there was a lot of other stuff. You know, we had the interview, I think, from Variety, and they kind of broke into two separate parts. They actually talked about Wolverine, actually talked about it, as in mentioned it, but then not said anything. We'll talk about that. Then they also talked about the movies and TV kind of department. So a lot more than I thought, even with, you know, their founder leaving, which is a big deal in and of itself. So let's start there, right? So they're really, they're not doing like a Jim Ryan thing, because I don't want to compare him to Jim Ryan, but, you know, their founder, a guy who's been there since, I think, 1994, he's leaving. He has been there the whole time. He's seen, and I know people are kind of running through kind of his list of accomplishments. This is a guy who, not by himself, but, you know, he was there and he created it. Spyro, Ratchet and Clank, Sunset Overdrive, Resistance, of course. I gotta say Resistance, right? So no, let me honestly, you know, instead of joking around, let me honestly say, like, the guy deserves rest. You know, I mean, he's, I think he's retiring. I mean, they say, like, retiring from Insomniac. I didn't see anything of, like, him going somewhere else. We had, like, Shuhei Yoshida that was retiring-ish from PlayStation, but he's staying in the industry. Two legends, by the way, just overall. But, you know, it sucks to see him go, you know, when you have these people that have been there for like 30-plus years. You know, it's just kind of weird, you know, to have them not be there. But, you know, as I've talked about, you know, you think of the Hideo Kojimas and even like the Sam Lakes. You think a lot of like these really creative people, Tetsuya Nomura, they're in their 50s, they're in their 60s. They don't have that much longer. And another 10, 15 years, a lot of the old guard that's been around since, you know, the 90s, really kind of the starting up of the golden age, they're not going to be there anymore. And that hurts. That, I don't think we're in the better because of that. I think we'd be going in a bad direction. But, you know, these people deserve rest. These people deserve to retire. So good on him, and he's given us a lot of stuff, and I highly respect that. I mean, you know, I'll go to Resistance. You know, Spider-Man and Ratchet, and Spyro, they have an incredible lineup throughout their entire history. They're a very consistently amazing studio. Resistance might be my all-time favorite. Okay, so you have him leaving. You have a Jim Ryan-ish situation, which, again, not to compare literally like personalities or stuff, but you have a three-person team that's taking over, right? So it's going to be like a three-headed company, and they each kind of specialize at their own thing. Very reminiscent, in my opinion, of PlayStation, right? Where you have two. You have one that kind of focuses more on the games and one that focuses more on the business side, I guess, of it. They're kind of also doing that. Somebody actually is focused more on that business, finance, and then other things and other things. So, you know, I honestly think they're in good hands. I mean, you can read like the descriptions of these people, and I mean, I think two of them have been around for a very long time. These are not people that got there yesterday. So, you know, you do have to be careful. Like, you know, head of leadership, the founder, you know, he leaves and you bring in new blood. And, you know, again, it's a guy who was there and not just by himself, but he gave us a lot of great products from Insomniac. So there should be at least something in the back of your head where it's like, all right, you know, it's almost like a prove it thing, like prove that won't stop you from like continuing a very positive direction, right? And again, they are a very consistently great studio. So I'm not really worried, but it is something that, you know, I think about where it's like, okay, well, you have to show me now that this three-person team works instead of just him. So, you know, things like that. Now, in terms of Wolverine, I'll just read you the quote, okay? I actually found it quite funny because it's like, oh my dear God, I can see it a little bit from both sides, but let me just read it first. So they say, we've announced Wolverine, and we'd love to talk more about Wolverine, but we have to be like Logan today and remain very stoic until it's time to pop the claws down the road. As much as we have pent-up excitement, we got to hold on to it. So that's about as much as we could say about our upcoming projects today. And again, let me pause right there and just say, look, and I've said this before, I mean, I sympathize. Look, I don't know what it's like to get like one of the biggest gaming hacks of all time. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, you know, I can relate to that. Employees had their information doxed and all that jazz, and it was not a good situation. The game got out there way too early. We just saw actually idiots on Twitter just over the last 2 days, a couple of them, I feel like they're all maybe part of the same group, posting the early, you know, the alpha footage again and commenting commentating on it, saying, oh, I wish this was changed, or I hope that they improve upon this. These people are morons. These people, I think, know what they're doing, by the way. They're doing it for clicks. They're doing it for engagement. And they're honestly disgusting because, as I've said in the past, look, you can talk about it, but I think you really, if you're going to share that stuff, firstly, there's something a little bit wrong with that. But secondly, if you're going to commentate on it, I think you got to know the situation. You got to know that footage is old. You have to be smarter than that. And I think these people are, and they're just playing stupid, or they're just playing ignorant, and I just don't respect people like that. So I just wanted to kind of go off on that for a second. But they did have all that happen, and again, I can't relate, but I can understand that probably threw things for a massive loop, probably a bigger loop than we gave it credit for at the time. All right. But this is getting ridiculous. I feel like, it's tough because I get it, but it's not going to stop me from like holding back and saying, say, oh, it's all good. And, it's still a game that we saw 3.5, I think right now, 3.5 years, right? September, January, almost. Okay. It's been a very long time since we first saw Wolverine. We're approaching 3.5 years, and we're probably not going to see it in the next couple months. I really, there's a rumored state of play for February, but I think like maybe Ghost of Yote makes sense for that, and probably not Wolverine. So we'll see. Maybe, but maybe it's the summer, maybe it's the fall, maybe they wait 4 years before showing it again. And again, I feel like I can say, okay, I understand the leaks, I understand how that hurts you, but it is getting annoying, and especially a quote like that, right? It's like, all right, could you like say some, and I saw some outlets where it's like, I think they were trying to frame it and say, oh, well, they wouldn't say if the game was coming out this year, next year, the year after. That's like a line that I saw some people talking about. I guess to be fair, they never say anything like that, and I don't know what the question was to them. I will say this, I would prefer a year. I know that's kind of a big deal to just come out like during a day like this, a transition day, and say, yep, the game's coming out in 2026, because then it's like, oh, okay, so it was delayed. Or you say, oh, it's coming out in 2025, and then people say, oh my God, you have another PlayStation first-party game coming out. I get the ramifications, I get the weight that it has, but weight as in like how heavy, not not the other kind of weighting that we've been doing. But you know what I mean? So like again, I get it. I get that it holds more power than just kind of saying it. There's more to it than that. But at the same time, it's getting ridiculous. It just is. Okay, so final part is they talk about the movies and TV. They say, I think back to the Ratchet and Clank film from several years ago, and we kind of got an early start on that. So of course we're interested in that kind of thing. We love Ratchet and Clank in particular. No, I tweeted, and I said, I think Resistance, okay? I know, there's a biasness there, but Resistance, I honestly believe, would work really, really well as a TV show. I don't know about a movie just because, well, there are multiple games, and there's some lore, and it's like a battle, and it kind of takes over the whole world, and that takes a couple, games to tell. So for me personally, I would prefer a Resistance TV show. But you know what? For as heavy as I'm in, on Sly Cooper, I think like a Sly Cooper animated thing would work. Ratchet and Clank too. And Ratchet and Clank has been proven more recently to be popular, right? So like biasness aside to Sly, for me, I think Ratchet and Clank would work extremely well, right? Because it has sold well. It's sold well recently. It's still around. It's something they have tried before. Now, I don't think that was successful. I've actually never watched that movie from start to finish. I've seen clips of it, but never the whole thing. So you've tried it. It didn't really work. But Ratchet is still like a IP that you can go into. So I would not be opposed. I think Ratchet and Clank is a really good one. Spyro is not yours anymore, so you really can't do that. Sunset Overdrive would kind of be rad. Spider-Man, I saw people, kind of joking or memeing on it where it's like, oh my God, could you imagine a Spider-Man movie or TV show? It's like, okay, well, no duh. But maybe like a secret level thing. I actually have still not yet watched that freaking show, but, could you get some Insomniac presence into there possibly? But I think just a Ratchet and Clank thing or a Resistance, those would be my two. Personally, those two I think would work really, really well. Ratchet probably as a movie. I know they already did it, but I really think that actually would work. And then Resistance, I would personally do a TV show, but that's just my 2 cents. So yeah, I think that's it. Bigger day than I thought it was going to be for Insomniac. In fact, I thought today would be nothing for that team, like pretty much every day is for most teams, but here we are. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.